G'day YouTube, it's been a while since I've seen you guys. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year and all that other fun stuff. Hope you guys have been enjoying the festive season thus far. I haven't really been enjoying it because I am currently recovering from an illness that I contracted before Christmas. So there might be some coughing fits and some croaky voices in this video. I apologize for that. But I'm not going to let an illness stop me from making an awesome video for you guys. Guys, notice the new addition to the studio over there. That was a gift provided to me by some close friends, Chris and Sandra. So thank you very much to those guys for getting that for me. It's just sitting on the bed for now, but in the future I'll find somewhere to hang it or place it in the future. So yeah, it's very cool. If you guys can't see what it is from the small viewfinder, it says on air and then it's got a picture of a microphone there. So very cool. Adjustable brightness, all that fun stuff. So thank you very much to those guys for getting that for me for Christmas. Definitely made me feel better in my ill health. So what are we talking about today? So we're talking about antenna rotators, and more specifically, how to control a antenna rotator from your computer. This antenna rotator can't be controlled by a computer, but we're going to make it be controlled from the computer. So, but first, I need to give you guys a primer on antennas. So, this thing here is called a vertical antenna. It's supposed to be for a car, obviously. It's got a magnetic mount and stuff like that, but the frequency and how you mount it's not important. All we care about is the fact that it's an omnidirectional antenna. So the radio waves come out in a bubble in all directions from this antenna here, which is fine because this doesn't need to be pointed in a certain direction. You can just stick it on top of something, and no matter what direction the source or the destination of the radio waves are from, this antenna will hear it if it's in close enough proximity, right? At the other end of the antenna spectrum, I guess you could say, we have things like this. This is a directional antenna, and this is called a Yagi-Uda antenna. And as opposed to the radio waves coming out and going in all directions, these are a directional antenna. So trying to figure out how it's so big. So this is the front of the antenna and this is the rear. The transmitting and receiving power of this antenna is concentrated in a cone that comes out the front of the antenna. So ideally, you want to point this in the direction of the thing you want to talk to or the thing you want to hear. And it just gets mounted on a mast and stays in that position for its entire life. It never has to move. So what if you're a super cool RF hacker or a ham radio operator like myself? We need the ability to position and point directional antennas towards something that we want to hear. And the way you get around that problem is by using an antenna rotator. So ham radio operators and stuff will typically use these with their like large ham radio antennas, which might have like 4 meter long elements on it. This antenna is made for TV antennas. This antenna rotator is made for TV antennas. So you're not going to be able to put those massive ham radio antennas on it, but you can put fairly decent size antennas on it so far. And this is a cheap way to get an antenna rotator. Because if you have a look at the price of antenna rotators, they start at about $500 for the cheapest ones, and then they go up to multiples of thousands of US dollars. So you get this one here for about 120 American dollars, which is like ridiculously cheap, in my opinion, compared to what like a proper ham radio one would cost. So a lot of ham radio operators use these ones. And what's nice about these is they have a remote control, which means if we use a USB infrared transceiver on our computer, we can actually send the codes with our computer to the control box, and we can actually tell the antenna where to go without having to go outside and move it manually with the control box, which is really nice because I enjoy aircon because I live in the north of Australia where it is ridiculously hot and I don't really want to go outside to move an antenna. So if I can do it from my computer indoors, even better. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So yeah, if you want to follow along with this, you're going to need a IguanaWorks USB IR transceiver. These things are an absolute rabbit hole. I'm not gonna. There's 4 different variants, and they're all wired differently, and they accept different transmitters and receivers and stuff like that. It's an absolute rabbit hole. So I'm not gonna go into exactly like I'm not gonna go into the different variants, but I'm using the socket receive version, if that makes sense. Which I believe is the only one they have in stock. All the other variants are out of stock if you choose to obtain one. So yeah, I'm using the socket receive. You won't need this particular thing for the tutorial, but if you want to receive infrared signals from a remote, you need a wired IR receiver, and that just plugs into a 3.5mm headphone jack that's on the USB transceiver itself, but you won't need that for this tutorial. But if you want to transmit infrared, you need an emitter, an IR emitter, because the IguanaWorks IR transceiver doesn't have a IR LED for transmitting it, so you've actually got to buy one, a 5-volt one, and then you insert that into the transmit jack of the infrared transceiver. And then on the software side, we're going to need a couple of applications. So we're going to need Windows LIRC. So LIRC stands for Linux Infrared Remote Control. And then this is like the Windows port for it. So we're going to use that first. And then after, I'm going to show you guys how to do it on Linux. So LIRC is just the plain Linux version. And the problem with LIRC on Linux is I think it only kind of works up to Ubuntu 16. So it won't work on Dragon OS 22.04 or 20.04 Ubuntu or anything like that. I'm led to believe anyway. Maybe one of you guys have gotten it to work in the past, but I haven't been able to. And I guess because back in like the 2000s and 2010s, home theater PCs were like a massive thing, and controlling a home theater PC with a remote control was like a big deal. But now that we have things like smart televisions and stuff, they've kind of made home theater PCs obsolete now, so we don't really need, I guess, like, no one cares about having a remote control in Linux anymore. That's just my opinion. So yeah, so with all that out of the way, I need to pause the video and I actually need to rearrange the cameras and stuff. So I'm going to turn my camera off now because I actually need 2 cameras to film what's going on. So yeah, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to be back with you very shortly. See you soon. Hey guys, I'm back. And now that we've reached the practical segment of the tutorial, we need to configure our hardware now. So in the bottom right corner here, I've got my camera showing the 25 element UHF Yagi, 3.3 meters long, attached to a short mast, and that short mast is attached to the antenna rotator here. And then in this top right hand corner here, I've got a camera view with the controller box for the antenna rotator, and I've got my little IR emitter here. And we need to actually do some configuration on this controller box here. So I've got a diagram to aid you guys into that. So you guys will have to refer to the manual about how to program this box, but it's really easy. You basically just steer to a position that you want to, and then you press the memory key, and then you press whatever letter key you want to save that memory, that direction to. So to follow this tutorial, you guys will have to program the memory keys from A through to L in increments of 30 degrees. So A, for example, will be 30 degrees, plus 30 degrees from north. B will be plus 60 degrees from north, and then so on and so forth, all the way to L, which will be 360 degrees. And after you've done that, then you press the initial key here, and that will bring the antenna back to 0 position, like you can see in this video. This image here. So this antenna the antenna rotator is at position 0, so 0 degrees, and then you guys will need to get up on a ladder, take a magnetic compass with you, and point your directional antenna exactly due north. And yeah, please be cautious of working at heights. I don't want anybody falling off ladders and hurting themselves following this tutorial. Yeah, so that should be easy enough for you guys to achieve. If you need to see that diagram again, I'll just put it briefly up on the screen. And yeah, these are your bearings that you program into the memory. I'll explain why we're doing that a bit later on. And now the next thing we need to do is we need to attach our USB IR transceiver into a USB port on your computer, which that's easy enough. We all know how to do that. And then our wired emitter needs to be placed inside the, I believe it's port A. No, sorry, port B on the socket receive. Yeah, oh, no, sorry. Yeah, no, that's correct. Port A. So this port here, you attach your wireless IR emitter into. And that's really all the hardware configuration we need. So let's turn our attention to the software now. So I'll just minimize the browser. And I've got a couple of files in this folder on my desktop here. So if you haven't done so already, you need to install the drivers for the USB infrared transceiver. And I've already done that on this computer though, so I won't bother doing that. And we also need to download WinLIRC. And then this file here is the configuration file that we will feed into WinLIRC, and that'll contain the remote control codes for this controller box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up and extract WinLIRC into our working directory here. And then I'm going to enter the WinLIRC folder, and then I'm going to launch the application by selecting this binary right here, WinLIRC.exe. So I'm just going to double click that and we'll be greeted with this error message. That's completely normal, don't panic. I'm going to press OK. And then because we're using an IguanaWorks USB IR transceiver, I'm going to click that input plugin drop-down list here. I'm going to select Iguana plugin. I'm going to go to plugin setup. I'm going to tick transmitter channels 1 and 3. I'll explain why we only use 1 and 3 a bit later on. We press OK. Now we need to press the browse button, which is underneath remote configs. And then browse to the downloaded RCA VH226E antenna rotator configuration file. So I'll put the download links to that in the description of this video and the pinned comment. So double click that. And then that's all we need to do now. We'll hit OK, and WinLIRC will go, it will minimize itself to the taskbar. So the tray. So we just reopen that again. And then hopefully we should be able to send some infrared commands wirelessly, remotely from the comfort of my air-conditioned bedroom and studio here. So what I'll do is I will click that drop-down list there. I'll select RCA VH226 antenna rotator. And then we've got a list of commands here. So as you can see, I've labeled all these as the bearing we want to steer our antenna to. So I've got 0 degrees, so that'll bring the antenna back to the starting position. That'll take about a minute or so. So if you choose to select that option, you have to wait about a minute. And then we've got 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees, all the way down to 360 degrees. And then we can also bump the antenna slightly. So we've got counterclockwise rotation and clockwise rotation. So just to keep this demonstration nice and short, let's just steer to 30 degrees. So I'm going to choose 030_degrees, and then I'm going to go send code. And as we can see, the antenna is rotating to plus 30 degrees after north. So that's very, very cool. And yeah, this readout on the antenna controller is actually times by 10 degrees. So if it's saying 3, that's 30 degrees. And then let's just steer to 60 degrees to test that it's definitely working. And if you look very carefully, you might be able to see some IR infrared being blasted from the emitter here. It's very faint and there's a lot of reflections on the transmitter. So yeah, that's really, really cool. We can actually see the antenna rotating. So that's very, very nice. So that's a very like manual way to do things. So wouldn't it be nice if we had like a pretty GUI application to aid us in steering the antenna, and then we won't have to worry about doing it manually with the WinLIRC app. Well, guess what? Your boy Rob's got you covered. I wrote a little Python application called Rotator Control version 1. Now, I'm not a programmer, guys, okay? And if you guys are experienced programmers, you'll probably take one look at this application and go, what the... again, I'm not a programmer, but hey, it works for me. So what we're going to do is I'm going to browse to my C folder. So the root of my C drive. This won't work anywhere else, guys, okay? It has to be the root of your C drive. I'm going to drag Rotator Control V1 and extract it to the root of my C drive. I'm going to close 7-zip now because I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to browse into the Rotator Control version 1 application. Now there's a README file here, guys, so don't forget that you can always, if you get stuck, you can just read the README file, please. Always read the README file of software before emailing or reaching out to developers for help, okay? All your answers and instructions are in here, okay, guys? And what we're going to do is I'm going to close and exit WinLIRC, and we're just going to do this all completely from the start again. So once you're inside the Rotator Control folder, we have to launch WinLIRC first, always. Okay, so we're going to set this up one more time from scratch. Oh, well, it's half. Yeah, okay, no worries. It's remembered the config from before, so that's fine. We'll just might have to browse back to the Rotator Control version 1 folder, and I've got my configuration file for the remote control there. And then we press OK. And don't forget, WinLIRC always goes down to the tray, so you can just leave it down there. You won't have to worry about that for now. And then we locate the Rotator Control version 1 Python script shortcut. And I'm going to press that. And then here we have our pretty GUI now, and we don't have to do things all manually. So without further ado, let's hope this works the first time. So I'm just going to steer to an arbitrary position now. So we're already at 60. So how about we rotate to 90 degrees plus 90 degrees from north. And then we have it. There's my little Python app steering my directional antenna. So that's pretty cool. And just to prove that it is actually doing stuff, let's open up SDR Sharp. Hopefully I've got an SDR plugged in, but I probably don't. Oh, I don't have an SDR plugged in. Never mind. That's okay. I can't be bothered going outside to connect one up. It's too hot. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So I'm just going to steer back to 0 degrees now. And that'll take about a minute to do. So yeah, I'm going to release this application here. I'm going to put the download instructions, the download link in the description in the pinned comment below, guys, if you want to emulate this setup. So what can we do now with this? Well, because our antenna is pointing north, then we can use Google Earth to actually find the bearing of places we want to listen to. So yeah, this is the city that I live in, Darwin. So if you go to, I think it's Tools and then Ruler, it'll open up this little box here. Sorry, this little window here. And then you can click your, you can measure bearings from the position of your laboratory or your antenna. And you can actually steer the dish. So you can actually steer your antenna. So that's the city center of the place where I live now. It's at about 210 degrees. So what I can do is I can bring up my Rotator Control application, and then I can go, okay, Darwin City is at 210 degrees. So I'm going to press the 210 degrees button in my app, and it's sent an infrared signal to the controller box, and it is now currently steering to 210 degrees plus from north. So yeah, that's really, really cool, guys. That's really all I've got to show you now in this for this demonstration. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to pause the video, and we're going to do it in Linux now. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that, or I'll see you very shortly. Okay guys, welcome to the Linux configuration and setup portion of the video. So we've got a few commands to run to get this all set up. So I've got the commands.txt file here, and I'm just going to basically copy and paste. So let's get started, shall we? We need to start off by installing LIRC now. So I'm just going to hit enter on that command. That's not enter. This is enter. And then yeah, that'll take a moment to install. So I'm using a virtual machine for this, guys, because I had to use Ubuntu 16 because this stuff doesn't work on newer Linux installations, I'm led to believe. So in this configuration menu here, we're just going to scroll down using the keyboard, and we're just going to locate IguanaWorks USB transceiver, which should be around here somewhere. There it is. So I'm just going to highlight that and hit enter. We don't have an IR transmitter because the IguanaWorks IR USB is actually a transceiver, so it can transmit and receive. So we're just going to choose none. And then that installed without a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the USB IR transceiver to the virtual machine. This one. And then we're just going to run this command here to see if the USB has attached and the driver modules have been loaded. So I'm just going to hit enter on that, and we can see here that we have a IguanaWorks IR transceiver successfully attached to our virtual machine. So that's really cool. So now we need to actually program the antenna rotator's remote control configuration now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that command, and this will open up a text editor. I'll just refer to my other text document here and just copy and paste the remote configuration. And then we'll just press enter a few times. And then we'll just place that text there in the LIRCD comp file. We're going to hit save. And we can close that now. And then we're actually going to start LIRC on Linux now. So I've got a second terminal window open. I'm going to run this command. And then so far everything seems to be working, I hope. So we've got a command here which will actually just show us if the remote control configuration is actually successfully programmed into LIRC. So I'll just hit enter on that. And we've got a bunch of commands here for 0 degrees, 30 degrees, and so on and so forth. So that's looking promising so far. Okay, so we need to set transmitter 1 and 3 on the IguanaWorks USB IR transceiver. I said I was going to explain it to you. I suppose I should do it now. If you don't disable transmitters 2 and 4, it actually reduces the power to the IR LED, and you get very, very weak infrared signals coming from this. So the reason we set 1 and 3 is so maximum power is going straight to this IR emitter here and not getting split to the other channels. So I'll just run that command. And then I think we're ready to actually send it a command now. So this is how we send commands to the antenna rotator manually. So I'll just hit enter on this command. And we can see that the antenna rotator is moving. So that's fantastic. And we can actually substitute 30. We can actually substitute the last value. And we can choose any of these values now. So let's just choose an arbitrary bearing of 120 degrees. So I'll just paste that there. Can hit enter on that, and yeah, we can see the antenna is moving, which is really, really cool. So again, wouldn't it be nice if we could have a pretty GUI application so we didn't have to fool around and send commands manually in the terminal window? Wouldn't that be nice? Well, guess what? Your boy Rob's got you sorted again for Linux. I ported my little Python app to Linux, and we're just going to go ahead and open up the zip archive. And we're going to extract that zip. We're going to extract Rotator Control V1 into the home directory, my home directory, sorry, should I say. And we can just leave that there. I don't believe there's anything else we need to do. Maybe you need to run the chmod command to make all those, all the bash scripts inside the folder executable potentially, maybe. But yeah, you guys. So yeah, all these will need to be made executable. I think you can do that by just going like this to permissions, highlighting them all, and then changing all these to read write and allow executing program a file as a program. And there's one more thing we need to do. We need to install the TK framework for Python 3. I forgot to tell you guys that you need to do that in Windows as well. So I forgot to say that. Apologies for that. I'll make sure to say that in the description. So I'm just going to run that command to install Python TK. TK is Tinctor. That's like a Python graphical user interface framework. So that's a dependency that you'll have to install. And then after that's installed, we'll run this command to actually launch Rotator Control version 1. Hit enter on that, and here's our pretty GUI, which is going to make steering our antenna a lot easier. So let's just steer to an arbitrary direction of 180 degrees, which will be almost just about south for us. And yeah, look at that. Isn't that really cool? I forgot to show you in the Windows version, you can actually manually steer the antenna. So if you need to steer to a value that's not listed in the list, you can just get as close as possible by using these presets, and then you can just bump the antenna in either clockwise or anti-clockwise to get to your desired destination. Yeah, don't forget, again, you can use we can use Google Earth to find the bearings to where to steer your antenna. So yeah, sorry about not having an SDR or something plugged in to actually show you the antenna doing its thing, but I think these two cameras here showing the antenna moving in the controller box was enough to prove to you guys that it's actually working. So yeah, sorry about the long video, guys, and thanks for sticking around with my illness and croaky voice and a bit of coughing here and there. I'm sorry about that, but I'm on the mend. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Catch you later. Bye.